Craftsmanship names an enduring and basic human impulse, the desire to do a job well for its own sake. That's a quote by Richard Sennett. And I guess this is my season to be having guests on that are also friends of mine. If you've listened to the last two or three episodes, you know that I've had some special people on. And today, again, I have a very special friend that we became buddies at the Ken Whitmire Wall Portrait Conference. And he, Ken would create a community of people, and I have lifelong friends that are more than the photo friends that you meet at conferences, and I put Chris in that category. So, who is Chris Wooley? He is a master craftsman, CPP, fellow of the Professional Photographers of Washington. He's a photographer, educator, and industry leader. And he is now known as the photo professor. I love that. He and his wife also have Heads and Tails Photography, which does branding and gorgeous vintage pinups. He's one of the, in my opinion, one of the leaders of that movement, and his work is stunning. But he also helps photographers make better decisions, both creatively, technically, and professionally. And he is the president-elect of the American Society of Photographers and a competition judge, and has won oodles of awards. Gosh, a little tongue-tied today. I haven't had enough coffee. So, hey, Chris, welcome.
Hey, Lucy.
Hi.
Oh, great to see your face. Like,
You
kind of
too.
fun. We live in different areas, and it's only a few times a year that we actually get to meet up. But I love Zoom. We get to connect and have conversations face to face, although virtually.
Yes, I love it too. So, I'd like to know just a little, like a 2 minute, how did you get into photography? Little story.
Yeah. The classic one. What's the origin story with this one?
Yeah.
So photography's been kind of fun, and I took a class in high school because I was selling things on eBay, and I quickly learned that the better the photos, the more money you could get for stuff. I was like, all right, I should figure out how this camera works and how I can start photographing products so that I can get more money from it. And so I took a photography class and I just geeked out about all the technical things, like, ooh, this is my world. And then got to experience the dark room. And I was like, all right, I'm sold. Like, I spent every waking moment that I possibly could. I had my own key to the dark room. I loved it. That was my personal retreat area. It was just a ton of fun. So went through and became like my high school yearbooks photo editor and journal photo editor. Went off to college, wasn't pursuing photography, was going to become a high school English teacher. Got my teaching degree, started teaching, and quickly learned that the politics in public schools are
Oh,
not for me. So I was like,
yeah.
all right, I got to get out of here. I can't spend a career doing this. So it's like, all right, let's go and do what I did while I was working in college and paying for college, and that was doing photography. So I went back to my hometown, super, super small, and was like, all right, I'm going to do photography here. And it's a small town. And I quickly realized that, like, all right, I need to be at a bigger area if I'm going to specialize and find a niche that I enjoy and not be a general purpose photographer. And so I moved to the big city, Spokane, Washington, for me. It was our second largest city in the state of Washington. And opened up a photo studio here and kind of did everything that I could to eat. I
Mhm.
wasn't taking business classes at the time. I was like, all right, how am I going to figure this things out? I hadn't gone to Wall Portrait Conference. That was kind of a game changing moment for me when I first got to meet you as well there. But started doing things and it's like, okay, I don't want to be doing everything. Family, seniors, weddings, babies. I'm just not passionate about it all. And so I started honing in on genres that I was really, really passionate about, that I'm excited to photograph, that I'm excited to share information on, that I could become an expert on. And it's like, okay, I'm going to hone in on this. I'm going to catch up on my business acumen and figure out how can I make money? How can I make smarter decisions on this so that I can do the type of work that I like to do, get paid how I need to be paid, and do a new model of photography that wasn't really being done in my area. So I
Hmm.
had to figure out like all the logistics of actually getting that and getting people to be okay with the rates that I was charging and the business model that I'm doing. And it's like, all right, let's do this. Fast forward, I just hit with my studio here 16 years, which is really,
Wow.
really cool. And it's like, dang, time's flying by so fast on that. But that was kind of the point where it's like, okay, I'm going to do and focus on exactly what I love and what I'm passionate about. And I do not regret it. It's so
Love that.
amazing.
I love
Since
that.
then, I met my wife at a photography conference. She's joined in on the studio. We run and operate it together. We just have a ton of fun. I love the schedule. I love the interactions with people. So that's my 2 minute journey. Maybe
Yes.
more than 2 minutes. Yeah.
And someday you're going to need to be more enthusiastic, Chris.
Yep.
I love it. I love your energy. So, what I heard about that story was, first of all, you were an entrepreneur in high school. You were selling stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And then
Yep.
you got in photography as a tool to a means to an end, and then you fell in love with it. And then I was yearbook editor as well, and there's something, when you're creating these books and editing and picking things and telling a story in a book that really grows those synapses in your brain. So I can see how all the levels of things that you did, or and that you trained to be a teacher. So when we're like, you're a teacher, photographer, uh, all those little things that I listed, I can see where it all came from. And that's what I love, is we can look at the things that there's a quote decades ago. I wrote this down on how to be successful. Are you ready?
Yeah, let's hear it.
Watch what your hand falls to naturally and keep doing more of that. And that story that you just told to me is exactly what happened. You kept leaning in, as they say, to what is natural for you. And so I'm not surprised that you're also very successful and honed in on sales, on the business, because of course a lot of people are passionate about photography, and the whole idea of running the business is a mystery. So with that in mind, you are the photo professor. So let's put your professor hat on. So why do you call yourself the professor, and what class am I in?
Yeah, right. What does that mean? What does that mean? So, I needed a
Photography.
persona or a lens to put through photography education. I've got so many interests when it comes to the photography world. I love the technical side of things. Like, I will geek out about the inverse square law and about apertures and which modifier is going to be best. Like, I really like knowing the small details on things that most people don't care about. They care about, like, how do I use it or what's going to help me.
Hmm.
I actually geek out about those things, and I enjoy discussing the philosophy and I wonder if this works or how that works with it. But I also enjoy like the sales aspects of things. And so the common theme for everything that I really enjoy sharing and the way that my brain works is all about decisions. And so figure that if we can kind of hone in and start looking at all these different points or different genres of things and looking at the decisions that are behind them, that'll kind of help guide at least my viewpoint or perspective on how we look and how we can address these different topics. And so the photo professor, excuse me, was a way that I could kind of put that into one persona, keep my education brand clean and separate from my personal studio brand and the way that I interact with the industry. So it
So
just gives me a viewpoint for that.
So if I was signing up for your class in college, it would be uh, decisions as photography entrepreneur 1A, or I'm sure
Something
you
like
have
that.
advanced classes.
Yeah, better decisions would be
Better
a
decisions 1A. So
yep.
tell me what you mean by that, or what categories of decisions. You,
Sure. So no
uh,
matter what we're doing, there's going to be decisions that are behind it. Some things come automatic. We just know we've done it so many times. When you're driving, you don't have to think about putting it in or how we hit the gas and we hit the brake button. Those are just kind of automatic things. But we start to learn those habits and those traits over time based on the scenarios or situations. So in the photography realm, there might be a decision on which modifier should I use. Do I want moody, contrasty lighting, or do I want it to look like natural window light? Or maybe outdoor light. So that's going to vary based on what our goal is of how we want that light to look, which modifier we use. So that's kind of a decision there. But if we were to take that into like crafting family portraits, we might say, okay, I know I want to be selling large artwork. I want stuff that's going to go up on the walls. A decision that you might make with that and saying, okay, if I'm going to sell big, it looks kind of awkward if I have a really, really tight cropped in picture that's got this family that's on there where we're maybe cropping off shoulders and things. You can only enlarge that so much before it feels out of place. It just doesn't feel like it's a piece of artwork. It feels like it's an enlarged photograph.
mhm.
And so a decision that you might make during the actual photo session would be to use a wider crop, include some of the scenery that's in there.
Hmm.
Now we can start looking at that large wall art that's like, okay, if we want to get really big and have, say, a 60-inch print that's going to be made or a canvas or something that's up there, if the family is just one portion of that 60 inches, it feels like a really fine art piece that maybe describes what the family's doing, gives you an idea about what they value, what they like doing, how their family interacts. That's a lot more impactful, a lot better decision to make to include that wide versus saying, you know what, I'm going to do a really, really tight crop that would look great in an 8 by 10 or something that's on a Christmas card, but would not enlarge to that wall portrait feeling. So the
Right.
decision would be, I'm going to shoot wide or make sure I'm at least shooting wide for some of these family portraits. So I've got really nice contenders for doing wall portrait sales.
Right. And I'm sure you agree with me on this, or I assume you do, that the decision on how you show the work is important because if you're uh, showing it on your phone, but you want them to order a 60-inch print, that's kind of a rough decision. Would you agree that how you show the work is an
Oh,
important decision?
yes, and I think there's some fun nuances in there too. And this will vary depending on what your personal sales technique is. But being able to show big, show things in real size, that's kind of like easy or cheat mode. Saying, okay, I can show you what this looks like big. We can establish that as the original or what this should look like. And if we're going to go smaller, it feels like we're sizing down, which encourages the larger sales that are
Right,
happening.
right.
Showing on your phone, although it's still a digital format that's on there, it makes it feel like it's not real. You know, like we look at snapshots, we look at casual, low effort things, pictures we might save off the internet, memes. Those are viewed on our phone. If we're going to be looking at our family portraits in that same viewpoint that we have that we're viewing memes at, that's kind of devaluing what we're creating.
Hmm.
So I think that depending on how your sales structure goes and kind of the format or blueprint that you follow when crafting it, that you don't necessarily have to show those great big, say, like 60-inch wall portrait. You can have other ways of conveying what size and scale mean. For instance, having sample images is a really good way. Or I believe that you have white boards that you show what sizes are going to be look like in different crops. Something similar to that. So we can get away with showing what some of these larger finishes or what the final artwork could be in different formats. So we don't necessarily always have to show the picture big, but it definitely helps.
It helps. Yeah, one of the reasons I quit weddings is because some of my best work was only ending up as a 5 by 7 or a 5 by 5 in their album because they were looking at proofs. And one of those head slap moments, why didn't I do this? I did projection uh, for the engagement sessions
Hmm.
and would almost always sell them a wall portrait to have on display and a book. And why I didn't figure out how to uh, do the same thing with weddings. It just seemed kind of overwhelming, but uh, compared to now, it would have been really simple because I only shot like, which back then was a ton, but I would photograph maybe 300 or 400 images. And yeah, so but it just broke my heart that these these photographs I was doing with my wide, what you just said, a wider angle lens and lots of scenery, they'd be like, "Oh, I'm too small in that," because they couldn't see it in a size that when you look across the room, you can still feel the emotion and the beauty of that image. So I love
I
that.
think you brought up a really good point on size and the power of size. So I love entering photo competitions, and they're a great way to get feedback on images, improve as a photographer, having somebody else that's in the industry, not just Facebook likes, but somebody else actually checking out your work and giving you a score or giving you feedback on it. But very commonly, we get maybe caught up in the impact aspect of it, or what's the initial reaction versus the lingering reaction that's there.
Mm.
And essentially, what's happening nowadays with virtual judging versus physical prints that were on there is that we've got a group of people that are sitting around a 27-inch monitor that's backlit. They're about 3 feet away from the computer, and they're judging your image in 5 seconds. If it doesn't hit them in that short amount of time, like it's gone and it's got no value, or at least that's what we're told.
Hmm.
Yet, if you go to any museum, I love going to fine art museums, Smithsonian, portrait gallery, anything like that. It's so beautiful. But you walk in there, and sure, there's some small prints that might fit on a 27-inch monitor, like an 11 by 14 or something, right? But most of them are big. They've got this grand scale, and it's meant to be something that you interact with, that you experience when
Hmm.
you walk up to it. How does it feel when you view it across the room? When let's say you have your family portrait that's up on the wall, and there's a little bit of a scene or setting with, like, we love to go camping. And so there's a camping scene that's set up for this family portrait, or out in the woods that describes their family and those interactions. As you go get your morning cup of coffee, or you're heading out the door to go to work, and you can walk by it from a distance and just get that snapshot, that moment of emotion. How does that make you feel? And how does that set you up for that day? And then separately, when you go up and you can actually get close to it and you study the individual expressions that your family has, you study the scenes, the trail, the little memories, that pair of hiking boots that you just love. And man, I can't find that size anymore, but those ones I love so much, and there's so many great memories that are there. You get a completely different feeling, a
Hmm.
nostalgia that comes up to it, way different than when we viewed it from 20 feet across the room as you're walking out the door at a glance. We interact with those differently. And I think the Masters really had something with that. When you saw these great big 20-foot tall portraits that were hanging on there, they were meant to look cool from a distance, but then you get up and you notice that at the bottom of them, right at eye level when you're standing looking at it, that's where it's loaded with all this detail. And the top
Right.
part that you're looking and staring up, that doesn't have as much detail because it's meant to be viewed differently up
Hmm.
close as it is from far back. And I think
Right.
that's an art that's kind of lost, except for in wall portrait. We see it more when we can start looking at wall art and not just a big picture of our family.
I love that. Ooh, I like that. Um, you're making me think about when I saw the painting Guernica by Picasso in person. And it's when I've seen it like on a computer in a book or postcard or something, it's kind of this chaotic mess. I don't know. Do you know the painting, Chris?
Uh huh. Yeah, yeah.
Um, and it was on display when I went to Barcelona, and it's maybe 15 feet wide, maybe. And I stood there and I burst into tears. And I didn't know the story. It was about war and such, but the feeling, the details, the horse that you could hear his screams, um, and it impressed on me. Like if I was an actress and I needed to cry on cue, I think about that because that emotional impact. And then when I stood back and I could see design and I could see other things, and yes, I love what you're saying. So
Yeah.
what
And
other,
how different would that painting have been just looking at it on your phone? You
yeah,
wouldn't have had anywhere near as much
no,
impact that's there.
or judging it on a computer.
Yeah.
I don't know. I give it a 78. It's a little, I'm not sure what the center of interest is. Color harmony is good. And even the brush strokes and things. Anyway, I love museums too. All right. What other better decisions do you like to help people make? or is
Yeah.
it?
So decisions are all around us. So it kind of comes down to what our objectives are. So if we take this in, this is Profitable Photographer that we're listening to right now. So let's talk about kind of the sales process. So one thing that I find to be helpful is not trying to reinvent the wheel every single time that you're doing a sales session. Like a lot of inexperienced people, they're like, okay, I don't know. How do we feel this out? This person's aggressive. This person's not talking. This person's non-committal. This person's overly excited. Like we've got all these different dynamics that might be in that room. And depending on what your comfort level is, you might respond better to one situation than another. But if we can set up a system for what your sales are doing, a process that you follow or a blueprint, man, that is so helpful for being able to go through and saying, okay, even if I get blown off on this aspect of it or things didn't go, it gives you a path, a reason, a purpose that's there. And when you have a process or you go through something like, you're like, okay, this person knows what they're talking about. They're going to help me through this.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, a decision that we might make during the sales process is saying, you know what? I should really start evaluating what my client journey is as they come through with this. They're coming in not knowing what to expect. How can I make it comforting, exciting? How can I establish myself as a guide or someone that's helping them make decisions versus that sleazy salesman?
Right.
Because nobody wants to be sold to. Like, I really dislike, say, getting my oil changed anymore.
Oh,
I
God.
feel like every time I go to an oil change place, like there's a place that I absolutely loved. They sold to new owners, and I won't go back there again because they're like, okay, here's this, and here's a list of like 20 things that we could do, and each one's an upsell that's on here, and it's just like, I don't think I can trust you that I actually need that. Like, I know I just replaced my air filter. The fact that you're trying to sell me a new one makes me think that you just want me to buy stuff and that's not actually what's going to be helpful for me.
Yes.
And when your clients start feeling like that, like trust is lost. And I think trust is one of our biggest things that we have when we're interacting with clients. If we can say, all right, let's take the money out of this. How do we get you what you need? Something that's going to be helpful, that's going to fulfill your goals or what your needs are.
Mm-hmm.
Why did we get this family portrait session taken? Is it because we have a new family member? And like there's a baby that's on here. Maybe we have multi-generations that we want to celebrate. Maybe the kids have graduated and they're going to be leaving the home and you want to have something that says, this is my family, the last time that all the family was here together and I want to remember this moment in time. Like we want to focus on what those core goals are. And if we know what they are, then we can help craft something. We can recommend products that are going to accomplish those goals. And we don't feel salesy. We don't feel sleazy at that point. We feel like we're actually there caring about our clients, saying, you know what? Your problems, your goals, that's my problem. That's my goal now. How do I help you? And if we can keep that philosophy in there, and it's like, okay, sales are going to be easy now. We're just helping somebody. We're not selling them.
Right.
It's like, duh. That makes
Yeah.
me feel so much better.
Right. And that, when you have that system, you embody a confidence that, sorry, I just added a really weird view.
No, gotta love all the things in Zoom, huh?
There's two of me. Okay, I got to pause here for a
You're
sec.
good.
Okay, all better. I was multiplying and I want more of Chris right now, not me. Okay, what I was saying is when we have what you're saying, which is to have your system in place, people feel the confidence, so they trust us. And also, if they're trying to, like one of the things clients I notice some will do if they don't fully trust us is try to control how we do our sale, for example. And
Hmm.
because I have confidence in my system, I can say to them, I've got this system, it works well. If we divert from it, I'll get a little bit lost, which means you might get a little lost. So if you can just relax and just say yes, no, or maybe, we're going to get where we want to go. And then they calm down on
Yeah,
that.
I've got
Oh,
a similar thing. I let them know that, like, hey, I've got a process that's on here that makes this easy and not overwhelming. If we deviate from this one, we're going to end up with way too many decisions, and it's going to feel more like a chore versus exciting, where we get to have this premiere.
yeah,
And so,
exactly.
let's just make it easy. I'll guide you through everything. Your job is to sit back, relax, and we need to say yes, we like this one, or no, we don't.
Yeah, exactly. And you have that confidence, and I have that confidence that we can guide them. When I'm coaching people, the core of my sales system training is to become the trusted advisor, which you
Yep. Story brand. Yep.
said. No, I
No.
said that way before that.
Okay, not Donald Miller. Okay, we won't
I,
go with it.
no,
Yeah.
but well, actually, I saw that term somewhere maybe 10 years ago and was like, that's it. That's the phrasing, trusted advisor. That's what I've done. And that's what I've been teaching. Anyway, because when they trust us, then we can advise them and they feel good and comfortable and uh, to loop back to what your core here is then we've made good decisions that are going to make everything flow smoothly. So I love that. Okay, what other decisions? So deciding what our business is, if there's a session, deciding how to photograph it, how to light it, how to prop it, decisions about how you're going to sell,
Yeah, let's
decisions.
talk about pricing that's on
Okay,
there because the decisions that go into that, I think, are huge and can set you up for success or failure. So when it comes to pricing, there's essentially two sides of this coin, and we have to make sure that both sides are aligned. We don't want two heads, right?
mhm.
Need one head, one
There
tail
we
that's
go.
going on there. Yeah. So when we're looking at it, first we need to figure out how much money we need to make as a photographer. And there's so much great information about like evaluating your cost of doing business, how much money you personally want to be making, what your format or your structure for your pricing is going to be in terms of like how much money do I need to make per day or per session or per month or per year in order to accomplish these goals. So we have to have the business side of things. That's a really big topic we won't touch on here, but there's a ton of great information about figuring out how to do that. If you are a PPA, Professional Photographers of America member, they have a benchmark study where they go in depth and look at a whole bunch of different photography studios with different experience levels and different business models across the US, where they kind of break that down. But knowing our base, our business side of things, what do I need to do so that I can actually eat?
Mhm.
That's what I like to kind of keep in mind. How much money do I need to have coming in so I've got food in my belly?
Right.
So that's one thing we need to know. Second side of thing is more of our client facing information. How do I price it so that the pricing makes sense to my clients and it feels natural? Because we could say, all right, I know that I need to make $5,000 from this session. And I'm just making up these numbers, but pretend that you've done your homework, your cost of doing business, you've looked at the benchmarks. You know, for every session that you're doing, you need to make $5,000 on average from. If we do that one, we could just say, all right, my session fee is $5,000 and I'll give you exactly what you need. That one's a little bit ambiguous. We don't have terms defined there,
Mhm.
but we get our money needs that are satisfied.
Right.
Might be a little bit of a tough pill to swallow for our clients if that's the only number that they know that they hear. There's no flexibility, there's no ranges. That's just the hard number that's on there. So might work really well, might not be. If you're on the commercial side of things, that makes total sense. I do a lot of commercial branding for like hospitals, law firms, that sort of thing. That pricing makes perfect sense where I can go and they're buying my time and they're buying the commercial usage of these images. A flat pricing structure makes total sense for those formats.
Hmm.
For me, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for individuals, especially those that are looking for products. Makes a whole lot of sense for digital files, though. So if we're looking at it and say, okay, I have this amount, but maybe I need to break it up in a format that makes it easier to digest so that we can kind of build on those numbers. What I love to do for that pricing structure is have something that's got kind of a tiered pricing system that's in it. So a little bit of a choose your own adventure. And this is the format that I use in my studio when I'm selling like the vintage pinups and things, where I've got a price list that's set up and it's basically an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper that's just folded hot dog style. And I've got my front cover that says this is the pricing menu, and then 3 pages that are there. And each page kind of hits on a major product type. For instance, the very first page is all about wall art. What's their signature thing, the big one they want to walk away with? The second page is all about collections. So this is going to be albums, or I sell a lot of calendars or fun novelty products.
Mhm.
So this one has groups of products that are on there. And then the third page has the things that are smaller. So that's going to be like our gift prints, like our 8x10s and smaller. That's going to be fun novelty products for me, like playing cards or a Viewmaster. Stuff that would be add-ons, aren't necessarily the prime thing, but stuff we want to exist somewhere in that.
Mhm.
And I set up my pricing structure so that if they select one thing from all three pages, so one piece of wall art, one collection, and at least one gift print or something that's on the smaller side, then they've unlocked package pricing. So they
Mm.
get about 20% off is what my discount value is that's on there. And so that naturally, just that format encourages them saying, oh, okay, in order to get the better pricing, the better deal, I need to buy one thing from all three sections.
Mhm.
I don't ever actually have to say you need to buy one thing from all three sections. What I'm saying is that, hey, most people buy one thing from all three sections. If you want the best price, buy one thing from all three sections. And you know what? When we have a format, that blueprint that says, oh, okay, I need to buy one thing from all three sections, let's look at what that'd look like. Let's start the conversation off with the wall art. What's your favorite piece? That signature piece, the one we're going to remember. That's what I want, that first decision. Once we've done that, the band-aid's ripped off, we've actually made somewhat of a firm commitment that we actually want to purchase something. Now we're looking at the albums. Okay, let's throw in all the images that are on here that we didn't order as wall art, stuff that we want to exist, stuff that tells our story. We now have that formula that says, okay, this is what happens next in our story or our flow, our blueprint we're following. We've done our wall art. Now we go on to the collections. And then finally, we look at the smaller prints and the novelty products. And those are things that didn't fit in the album. Maybe it was an image limit that we had in there. Maybe it was a size, or maybe it was just an outcast moment that was still kind of fun or has some emotional connection, but doesn't necessarily need to be in that curated aspect.
Mhm.
Or a gift for somebody else. It's like, okay, now we're on to that as kind of the final footnote. We got to have the pictures for Aunt Susie, right? And so that's where those ones are going to exist. And so when I'm helping them through that process and looking at what my pricing structure is, I say, okay, I need to price it so that when they buy one thing from all three sections, I hit my sales minimum.
Mhm.
And so I'm structuring my pricing so that it's not me having these high numbers. It's saying, hey, if you follow this format, you're going to be hitting my session goals, my averages. So when I'm designing it, that's what my decision is. But the client's process is saying, okay, how do I make the best decision throughout here? I know I want something for the walls. Okay, this gives me that format and says, we're going to pick this first. I might not have been planning on an album, but I can see that I saved quite a bit of money, 20% in fact,
Mhm.
by getting one thing from all three sections. I know I already liked a bunch of them. We should probably do an album or a collection of some sort. And then the gift prints, I love having that at the end because we've already made the big taxing decisions like, okay, how much am I going to spend? What size are going to do? What's going to be included? What's not included? So the other stuff is just kind of fun add-ons, kind of like the candy bars that are right next to the register. They're like,
Mhm.
okay, now that we've made these ones, let's add on these small few things. Those numbers aren't really going to matter in terms of what our averages are. But for us, they do. Those little
Yeah.
add-ons, those are great. Those are high profit margins, and I love them. So we follow that format and that structure. So I set up my pricing in a way that the price list does the heavy lifting for me, where we just follow. We're in this together. I'm helping them find the better deals. Be like, hey, I know you weren't interested in a piece of wall art that's on here, but with a 20% savings, like it's only going to cost us a little bit. Even if we get the smallest wall art size that's offered here, it's almost free.
Right.
And then they say, okay, I'll do this. And then we start looking at it and it's like, okay, I've got you your buy-in. You didn't want wall art to begin with, but now we've got the very, very bottom, smallest size that we can possibly get for it. Our pictures
Yeah.
don't look so good that small. What if we go up two sizes? Now
Mhm.
we've just done an upsell on here. They weren't planning on wall art. Now we have wall art. Now we have larger wall art. So it's a logical process that we help them through.
Right.
Again, we're not being salesy on that one. We're just
Right.
helping them. We're that trusted advisor
Yes.
because we have trust as our currency.
Right. So, in listening to you, and you actually answered my question of why you do it this way. What is your decision of how you do it? And when you said that the your decision makes the price list kind of the secret sauce sales tool, you said it something like that, that you know it helps all this go along. Well, my decision to let the images large be the motivator, be the thing that, well, first I have the decision that I want them to buy way more than one wall portrait. I want to decorate their whole home.
Yeah, you're looking at collections of things,
And
groupings. Yep.
so my system, my decision is to create a system where the main goal is wall art, and I rely on the emotional impact of these images. And my structure is so we made slightly different decisions to pretty much the same ends, but with a little and I can see, especially in your pinup um, genre, the
Mhm.
thought of like 7 wall portraits from a pinup session is probably not as realistic for most people as a family portrait, where you're going to have a scenic, you're going to have everybody close and fun, you're going to have each kid, you're going to have the kids together, you're going to have something romantic of the mom and dad. You can put all those around a home and it doesn't feel like, oh, uh, ego
Less
much,
braggy. Yep.
or just like, they're different, even though it's from the same thing. So I love that. Okay, we're moving on. So I'm gonna tag these. So decisions like, what is your photography goal and how do you create that? Um, what lenses and other tools you're going to pick to accomplish your visual goals and also your sales goals. The decision on how you're going to sell and having this system so that every time you do it this way, and then it's just like clockwork. The decision to create the trust, the decision on how you're going to price so that you and your clients can reach the goals you have for them, the goals they have in mind. Is there any other decision that you think is key?
Well, there's always decisions. Everything's about decisions.
Hmm.
So it's never ending from the studio decor that you have
Hmm.
to the attire that you choose to wear when you're interacting with your clients. Kind of hitting back up on that price list, because I'd mentioned that I've got kind of that choose your own adventure sort of format that works better for me than, say, like a traditional packages format.
Yes.
That one, I dislike the traditional packages because you're saying, here's the box. Do you want to buy that? That works great if you need
Right.
really efficient methods, but not everybody's going to need exactly the wall art that you put in there. Maybe they need more pieces, maybe they need larger pieces, or they don't have as big a wall space and they need more that are smaller. It's hard without getting customization going into those packages, so that one didn't work as well for me. Another thing that's very, very valid is having something that's a little bit more prestige pricing. If you're working with more affluent clients and selling a lot of high end stuff, and your average isn't $5,000, but it's
Mhm.
$10,000 or $15,000, having something where you save 20% as a carrot that we're dangling probably
They
isn't
don't
going to
care.
do much, and it actually might devalue what your experience is.
Exactly.
And so saying, you know what, I've got a very curated list, kind of like a fine wine list that's coming through. And you know what? You're just paying what this item costs. You don't get any discount that's on there, but you know what? I'll help you sell it and I'll help you pick the right size based on our trust relationship that we have. What's going to work best for your needs could be a really, really strong decision to make.
Right.
So,
Right.
this is all about what your goals are and how do you best accomplish them.
Exactly. Yeah. And that is my base, the luxury market.
Yep.
And so yeah, I might offer a bonus at the end if they're a little bit squeamish about the price list,
Hmm.
but it's a surprise. They're not like, oh, one from column A, B, and C, and I get a special pricing. That's not
That doesn't jive with what your client base is.
right, right. I
Yeah.
love that. And then so what you threw in there, but then back to pricing is decisions about your decor, your branding, how you dress, even words that you speak. Like I do not use the word shoot, or I intentionally try not to because it has a different culture in your mind.
Hmm.
Besides, I don't like to shoot anything, but I like to photograph. But the word shoot is to me not a luxury word. And when we're using luxury words, people start thinking, oh, this is a luxury experience. And then whether or not they're comfortable with the investment, they start to feel like, okay, this is different than, you know, somebody that I hire to shoot my kids and download a bunch of digital. So all the things, the
Yeah,
environment, the way
we're
our
reaffirming
website,
that
way of
that
our,
message.
yes, the way our website works, all the things.
Yeah, you wouldn't if you went to a fine steak restaurant. You'd be a bit disappointed if they gave you paper napkins. Like that doesn't, it's not reinforcing that this is a high end establishment. If the words that you're using, the decor that you have don't align with what your core values or that message is, we've got a disconnect on what that message, what are we trying to say? We're sending some things
Yeah,
out that shouldn't be there. So it's like, okay, how do we send that elevated feeling so that it feels normal to spend those amounts if you're coming there?
I love that.
Uh,
Are
a
you
little bit.
are you
Oh,
a
I'm sorry. What's that?
are you a Schitt's Creek fan? Did you watch Schitt's Creek?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so
David, ew. No.
um, so when they sit down in the cafe, they're handed a menu and it's enormous and it falls out and out and out. Same with the Cheesecake Factory. And
Yep.
so if you go to a really fancy high-end uh, restaurant, they might give you one sheet or they might just tell you what it is.
Yep.
They might have a chalkboard, but they're not you would be surprised and confused if they handed you a 7-page menu with Mexican food, Italian food, burgers, sushi.
Yeah. If you do everything, what do you do well? Nothing.
Yeah, nothing. Okay, you were going to throw in one more thing, and then we're getting a little close on time.
Oh, okay. Yep. Also with the word shoot, just kind of reinforcing that. Like when I work with a lot of actors and models, they love the word shoot.
Yeah.
And so I embrace it for them because we're talking something that's fashion and the experience of having that photo shoot, that professional session
Mhm.
that's coming through. But if I'm doing something that's going to be more curated, like with the vintage portraits or for you for family portraits on there, I don't like to use that language because it takes us away from what our core goal is and the feelings that we should have. So
Right.
there's a time and place for everything. Just making sure that you're thinking through what you're doing and you know why with it.
I love it. So it's all about decisions. All right,
Decisions. Yeah.
decisions. So if you can share as briefly as possible the amazing new tool that you have just launched pretty recently, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
for
So
photographers, particularly to sell in person, whether or on Zoom, but a sales tool for selling art.
yep.
Yeah,
So
tell us about that.
yep. I'd love to, and thank you for that warm opening on there. So it's called IPS Viewer Lite, and essentially what this is it is a sales tool that allows you to do slideshows, sort, record orders. Basically, it's an order management system. It's not physically processing payments or processing orders. It's just a tool for us to record that. So the reason that I came up with it was that I was using another sales tool, and they're a subscription-based system. I had bought a perpetual license of the software, and then it was no longer usable. And I was like, uh-oh, this isn't working for me. I'm tired of this because I've run into it several times, different software, different things. Somebody gets an idea, they change it, and now the system that I was using no longer works. And I got frustrated with that. So I wrote some software that's very streamlined. It does sales. That's what it does. That's all it does. It's not an album designer. It's not going to retouch your images. It's not doing all the bells and whistles that you can get with really, really expensive software. It's a very straightforward, like, hey, we're going to get down to work, nuts and bolts type software that is not subscription based. So you buy it once, it's working. You can have it on up to 3 computers. So if you have like one at home, a traveling computer, something like that, you're set for it. There's no like internet activation besides the initial activation, so that if you have something where you're constantly on remote or you're doing viewings where you don't have internet access, you don't have to worry about it not working. If you change your studio name, you can update that information. You can print out PDFs and order reviews on it. So that's what it's built for. I put Lite in the title, so it's IPS Viewer Lite, because I wanted to focus on the core sales aspect of it and not all those other flourishes that are on there.
I love it.
So it's built by a working photographer for a photographer. It's something that's like, okay, how do we want to do sales? What can we do with it? And it uses the exact same format that I use in my sales room. So I like to start with slideshows, then we do image sorting, and then we go through and we do the actual ordering that's there. It's built up that one. I've done over $1 million in sales using this exact formula with it. It works. It's proven. I'm sure you've got similar stories in terms of like, okay, we got our system. This navigates it. That's why I built it. That's what it does.
So the the URL to find it is viewips.com. So VIEW IPS, like inpersonsales.com. If you go to the
Yep.
show notes, if you forget that, you can find it. And
Yeah, and I
there's
do have a special offer for your listeners that are on here. So if somebody is interested in picking it up, they can save $50 on it with the code Profit50, like the profitable photographer, Profit50,
awesome.
and just use that code at checkout that's on
And
there.
it's
And I'll send
already
that to you for the show notes too.
great. And it's also already very affordable, but who doesn't like a little discount? The
Yep.
other thing, it is for PC, but Chris pointed out to me before I started recording, you can buy a PC for a couple $100 and just keep it in your sales room and just use it for that. And um, and you're off and running. So just
Yeah, I built it to be very, very efficient and very speedy, which means that it's not a resource hog. So it's not like Photoshop or Lightroom where you need to have some really, really beefy specs in order to run it.
mhm.
Just a small little pocket computer will totally work. If you have an old laptop, that can totally work with it. So it's meant to be something that can be updatable, that's not going to get messed up as new operating systems come out, and then we'll keep on working. Like I wanted it to be a workhorse, and it's priced pretty affordably, I think.
And you also have a gift,
Oh,
particularly for my
yeah.
gang.
Yeah, a handout on doing sales. So, yes, I've got 5 ways to increase IPS sales without feeling pushy. So, it kind of goes into some of those decisions that we were talking about. I've got some book recommendations that are in there. So if you want to know more about like the social sciences when it comes to sales,
Mm,
like Dale Carnegie saying, people like to buy from people that care about them.
hmm.
So it's like, hey, how can we interact with our clients and actually care about them and be more of that trusted advisor and less of the salesman? So there's a bunch of tips that are on there with some of my takeaways as well as some suggested readings. So,
Love it. And that
yep,
is at
yep,
cwooley, wooley.com/profitable.
correct.
So I'm going to give you an opportunity for a parting thought, or if there's just one little thing that you thought, oh, I wish I had mentioned that. So um, what do you have
Yeah.
for
So
us?
I thought you said a party thought at first, and I was like, ooh,
Party thought.
cheese. Everybody
Woo!
loves cheese. Like,
Yeah.
it's going to be a party if there's cheese. No.
Now I want cheese.
No, yeah, right. No, we need a parting thought that's on there. Yeah, and it's going to come back to my philosophy on decisions. The better the decisions you make, the better your photographs are going to be, the better your business is going to be, and the better your life is going to be. So think through things. Why are you doing it this way? If you take nothing else away from this conversation, think about why. Why am I making this decision, or does this decision support my goal? And if you can make it so that things are aligning, your decisions have a purpose that are on there, you're going to be so far ahead of everybody else. So better decisions.
I
That's
love
our
it.
that's our parting thought.
I love it. Well, Chris, I'm so glad that I was like, oh, let me get Chris on again. And if you want more, you can page back to several years ago. So you might just have to do a Lucy Dumas, Chris Wooley search to find us. But we're there together having a little bit of a different conversation. Um, so stay tuned for my quick wrap up. And Chris, I adore you, and you are
Oh,
so smart and such a good teacher. I know everybody feels that way about you now, and they want to be your best friend.
oh, thanks, Lucy,
You're
and
welcome.
thanks for having me.
Of course. All righty then. I'm here with my little quickie wrap up. And I'm sure that you loved his energy and his wisdom uh, just as much as I do. He's got the best smile and he's so smart. So let's see. His goal is to help us make better decisions. And I love that he said, when you make decisions based on your goals and you think them through, everything is going to be better and more successful. He said we need to make decisions about what an image is going to look like and then how to accomplish that, how to light it, what's the location, what are the props, all those things. Um, we need to make a decision on what we're going to sell, how we're going to sell it, what our equipment is, what our lenses are, how we have a system to do the sale. So the organization of it, um, pricing, very important to price so that you can achieve your goals. You can easily, confidently sell from it, and that your clients will get a sense of your business model. Um, And that is it for now. And thank you for making the decision to listen and subscribe. Look on YouTube, you'll find me and all the podcast places, but you already know that. So that's it. Bye.